5,000 years ago, someone dragged massive stones across a Scottish island and arranged them in a perfect cross. Half a world away, engineers were building a city so advanced that its sewage system wouldn't be matched for 3 millennia. These aren't fairy tales. They're archaeological facts that challenge everything we thought we knew about our ancestors. The Callanish stones have been watching over Scotland's Isle of Lewis for nearly 5,000 years. 13 towering monoliths arranged in a Celtic cross, with a central stone that stands 15 feet tall, like an ancient lighthouse against the Hebridean sky. Here's what makes Callanish extraordinary. Most stone circles were built for ceremony or burial, but Callanish appears to be something else entirely. A massive astronomical computer carved from Louisian gneiss, some of the oldest rock on Earth. The site was already ancient when Stonehenge was just getting started. Around 2900 BCE, Neolithic people hauled these stones across boggy terrain without wheels, without metal tools, without even proper roads. They positioned each stone with mathematical precision that wouldn't be fully understood until the 1980s. Professor Alexander Thom spent decades measuring stone circles across Britain. At Callanish, he discovered something remarkable. The stones aligned perfectly with the 18.5-year lunar cycle, a celestial pattern so complex that it wasn't officially recognized by modern astronomy until the 20th century. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Every 18.6 years, the moon appears to skim along the southern hills of Lewis, an event locals called the moon's dancing. The ancient builders positioned their stones to frame this exact phenomenon. They were tracking celestial mechanics that our civilization has only recently begun to appreciate. Who were these people? We know they lived in small farming communities, grew barley, kept cattle. They left no written records, no grand palaces, no obvious signs of the sophisticated knowledge required to build an astronomical observatory. Yet somehow, they understood lunar cycles better than medieval scholars would 15 centuries later. The mystery deepens when you consider the effort involved. Each stone weighs several tons. The nearest quarry is miles away across difficult terrain. This wasn't a weekend project. It would have taken generations, with knowledge carefully passed from father to son, mother to daughter. Around 1000 BCE, something changed. The site was abandoned. Peat began growing over the stones, eventually burying them up to their necks. For 3,000 years, Callanish looked like a collection of mysterious heads poking through the moorland. Local legends spoke of giants turned to stone for refusing to convert to Christianity. The stones weren't fully excavated until 1857. What archaeologists found beneath the peat was even more intriguing. A chambered tomb at the center of the circle, built after the stones were erected. Someone had returned to this ancient observatory and turned it into a burial ground. Were they the descendants of the original builders, maintaining a sacred tradition? Or were they newcomers who recognized the site's power without understanding its purpose? Angkor Wat rises from the Cambodian jungle like a stone mountain built by gods. For 600 years, it was the largest religious monument on Earth. Today, it remains the largest religious structure ever built by human hands. But Angkor Wat is just the centerpiece of something much grander. A lost city that once housed over 1 million people, making it larger than any European city of its time. This was the capital of the Khmer Empire, a civilization so powerful it controlled most of Southeast Asia for 6 centuries. The temple itself defies easy explanation. Built in the early 12th century by King Suryavarman VII, it was designed as a Hindu temple dedicated to the god Vishnu. But the scale is breathtaking. The central tower rises 213 feet above the jungle floor. The entire complex covers 400 acres. The outer wall stretches for 2.5 miles. Here's what makes Angkor Wat truly remarkable. Every surface tells a story. The walls are covered with over 3,000 carved dancing figures called apsaras, each one unique. The galleries display the longest continuous bas-relief in the world, depicting scenes from Hindu epics with the detail of a comic book and the artistry of Michelangelo. The engineering challenges were staggering. The temple sits on unstable swampland, yet it has stood for 9 centuries without major structural damage. The Khmer architects solved this by driving thousands of sand-filled bamboo piles deep into the earth, creating a foundation that could flex with the shifting ground. Water was both the empire's greatest asset and its biggest challenge. The Khmer built the most sophisticated hydraulic system in the medieval world, a network of canals, reservoirs, and moats that controlled flooding, provided irrigation, and supplied fresh water to over 1 million people. The largest reservoir, the West Baray, holds 123 million gallons of water and was considered an engineering marvel even by Chinese visitors who had seen the Grand Canal. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Climate data from tree rings and lake sediments reveals that the Khmer Empire faced a series of devastating droughts in the 14th and 15th centuries. The same hydraulic system that had made Angkor great became its weakness. As water levels dropped, the intricate canal network began to fail. Salt water infiltrated the rice paddies. The city that had thrived for 6 centuries began to die. The final blow came from an unexpected direction. The Siamese army sacked Angkor in 1431. But by then, the city was already in decline. The survivors didn't rebuild. They moved south to Phnom Penh, abandoning one of the world's greatest cities to the jungle. For 4 centuries, Angkor was forgotten by the outside world. Jungle vines cracked the stone towers. Trees grew through the roofs of galleries. The site became a local legend, known to villagers but hidden from European explorers. French naturalist Henri Mouhot rediscovered Angkor in 1860, though rediscovered isn't quite accurate. Local people had never lost track of the ruins, but Mouhot's published accounts brought Angkor back to international attention, sparking a century of archaeological investigation that continues today. In 1922, British archaeologist Sir John Marshall was excavating in Pakistan's Sindh province when his team uncovered something that shouldn't have existed. Beneath the dusty mounds of Mohenjo-Daro lay the remains of a city so sophisticated that it challenged everything historians thought they knew about ancient civilization. Mohenjo-Daro, the name means Mound of the Dead in Sindhi, was built around 2600 BCE, making it contemporary with the Egyptian pyramids. But where Egypt's pharaohs built monuments to death, the people of Mohenjo-Daro built monuments to life. Their city was designed for comfort, health, and efficiency in ways that wouldn't be seen again, until the Industrial Revolution. The urban planning alone is staggering. Streets run in perfect grid patterns, oriented to catch the prevailing winds for natural air conditioning. Every house had access to fresh water through an elaborate system of wells and pipes. Most remarkably, every building was connected to a sophisticated sewage system with covered drains running beneath the streets. Let that sink in for a moment. 4,500 years ago, when most of the world's people lived in mud huts, the citizens of Mohenjo-Daro enjoyed running water and flush toilets. The city's drainage system was so advanced that it wasn't matched until Roman times, 3,000 years later. The Great Bath is perhaps the most mysterious structure in the city. This massive pool, lined with bitumen to make it watertight, sits at the heart of the Citadel area. Some archaeologists believe it was used for religious ceremonies. Others think it might have been an early public swimming pool. The truth is, we simply don't know. The people of Mohenjo-Daro left no temples, no palaces, no obvious religious monuments. Their greatest achievement seems to have been creating a society where ordinary people lived extraordinarily well. But here's what makes Mohenjo-Daro truly puzzling. This wasn't a primitive society stumbling towards civilization. The city shows evidence of careful planning from its earliest levels. The street grid never changed. The drainage system was built to last. Someone designed this city with a clear vision of how urban life should work, and that vision remained consistent for 7 centuries. The Indus Valley Civilization, of which Mohenjo-Daro was a part, covered an area larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. They developed standardized weights and measures, a sophisticated system of trade, and what appears to be the world's first urban planning codes. Their cities show no evidence of warfare, no massive wealth gaps, no obvious ruling class. They seem to have created something unique in human history, an egalitarian urban civilization. Yet we know almost nothing about them as people. The Indus script remains undeciphered despite decades of effort by linguists and computer scientists. We don't know what language they spoke, what gods they worshipped, or what they called themselves. They left no epic poems, no royal inscriptions, no religious texts. Their story is written entirely in brick and stone. Around 1900 BCE, something went wrong. The cities began to decline. Streets weren't repaired. The drainage systems clogged. The quality of pottery and metalwork deteriorated. By 1700 BCE, Mohenjo-Daro was abandoned. The Indus Valley Civilization, one of humanity's greatest urban experiments, simply faded away. Climate change likely played a role. The Indus River appears to have shifted course, disrupting the agricultural system that supported the cities. But that doesn't explain why such a sophisticated civilization couldn't adapt. Other societies have survived similar environmental challenges. The people of Mohenjo-Daro had the engineering skills to build new canals, relocate their cities, develop new farming techniques. Instead, they vanished, leaving behind only their perfectly planned ghost towns. In the heart of Thailand, where the Yom River winds through rice paddies and lotus ponds, lie the ruins of Sukhothai, the first truly independent Thai kingdom. For 140 years, from 1238 to 1378 CE, this was the cradle of Thai civilization, where the Thai alphabet was invented, where Theravada Buddhism took root, and where the cultural identity of modern Thailand was born. The story begins with rebellion. In 1238, two Thai chieftains named Bang Klang Hao and Pha Muang drove out the Khmer overlords who had controlled this region for centuries. They established a new kingdom and took the name Sukhothai, which means dawn of happiness. It was more than just political independence. It was a cultural awakening that would define Southeast Asia for centuries to come. The third king of Sukhothai, Ramkhamhaeng, became one of the most important figures in Thai history. Around 1283, he created the Thai alphabet, adapting Khmer and Indian scripts to capture the tonal qualities of the Thai language. This wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a declaration of cultural independence. For the first time, the Thai people could record their own stories in their own words. But Ramkhamhaeng's greatest legacy wasn't political or cultural, it was spiritual. Under his reign, Sukhothai became the center of Theravada Buddhism in Southeast Asia. The kingdom's artisans developed a distinctive style of Buddha images that emphasized grace and serenity over the power and majesty favored by earlier Khmer art. The walking Buddha statues of Sukhothai are unlike anything created before or since. These bronze figures seem to float rather than walk, their robes flowing like water, their faces radiating inner peace. Art historians consider them among the finest religious sculptures ever created. They represent a uniquely Thai interpretation of Buddhist ideals: gentle, approachable, deeply human. Sukhothai's approach to governance was equally revolutionary. King Ramkhamhaeng's famous inscription, carved on a stone pillar that still stands today, describes a kingdom where there is fish in the water and rice in the fields, where any citizen could ring a bell at the palace gate to petition the king directly. Whether this represents historical fact or royal propaganda, it established an ideal of benevolent monarchy that influenced Thai political thought for 7 centuries. The city itself reflected these values. Unlike the massive stone temples of Angkor or the defensive walls of medieval European cities, Sukhothai was designed as a garden city. Temples were surrounded by lotus ponds. Royal palaces sat among landscape parks. The entire city was planned as a representation of Buddhist cosmology, with the main temple complex representing Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Buddhist tradition. Archaeological evidence suggests that Sukhothai was remarkably prosperous. The kingdom controlled important trade routes between China and India. Local artisans developed new techniques for bronze casting and ceramic production. Sukhothai pottery, with its distinctive green and brown glazes, was exported throughout Southeast Asia. But prosperity brought its own challenges. As Sukhothai grew wealthy and powerful, it attracted the attention of larger neighbors. The rising kingdom of Ayutthaya to the south began expanding northward. The Burmese kingdoms to the west looked hungrily at Sukhothai's trade routes. The kingdom that had been born from rebellion against foreign rule found itself squeezed between new foreign powers. The end came gradually. Sukhothai's later kings became vassals of Ayutthaya, maintaining local authority while acknowledging southern overlordship. By 1438, the last independent king of Sukhothai had died, and the kingdom was fully absorbed into the Ayutthayan Empire. Yet Sukhothai's influence lived on. The Thai alphabet created by King Ramkhamhaeng, with minor modifications, is still used today. The artistic styles developed in Sukhothai workshops influenced Thai art for centuries. Most importantly, The political and religious ideals established during Sukhothai's golden age became the foundation of Thai national identity. When modern Thailand needed to create a sense of national unity in the 19th and 20th centuries, it was to Sukhothai that historians and politicians looked for inspiration. The kingdom that lasted only 140 years had created a cultural legacy that would endure for nearly a millennium. Carthage was Rome's greatest rival, a maritime empire that controlled the Mediterranean for 6 centuries. At its height, Carthaginian ships sailed from Spain to the Black Sea. Their merchants traded in Britain and West Africa, and their armies nearly brought the Roman Republic to its knees. Yet today, most people know Carthage only as the city that Hannibal came from, if they know it at all. This historical amnesia isn't accidental. When Rome finally destroyed Carthage in 146 BCE, they made a deliberate effort to erase their rival from history. They burned the libraries, demolished the buildings, and spread salt on the ruins to ensure nothing would grow there again. Roman historians wrote the only surviving accounts of Carthaginian civilization, and they weren't interested in being objective. But archaeology tells a different story. The Carthage that emerges from decades of excavation is far more sophisticated than Roman propaganda suggested. This was a cosmopolitan civilization that blended influences from across the Mediterranean world into something uniquely their own. Carthage was founded around 814 BCE by Phoenician colonists from the city of Tyre in modern Lebanon. According to legend, Queen Dido established the city after fleeing political troubles at home. Whether or not Dido was a real person, the story reflects a historical truth. Carthage was created by refugees, immigrants, and traders who brought diverse traditions to the North African coast. The city's location was perfect for maritime trade. Carthage sat on a peninsula jutting into the Mediterranean, with harbors that could shelter hundreds of ships. The famous circular harbor, with its central island for naval vessels, was considered one of the engineering marvels of the ancient world. Roman writers admitted grudgingly that Carthaginian shipbuilding techniques were superior to their own. What made Carthage truly formidable was its approach to empire. Where Rome conquered through military forces and direct rule, Carthage built a network of trading partners and client states. They established colonies across the Mediterranean, but these weren't just military outposts. They were commercial centers that enriched both Carthage and the local populations. The wealth this system generated was staggering. Carthaginian merchants traded British tin for Indian spices, Spanish silver for African ivory. They developed new agricultural techniques that turned the North African coast into the breadbasket of the Mediterranean. Roman writers complained that Carthaginians cared more about profit than honor, but that profit funded one of the most powerful militaries in the ancient world. The clash with Rome was probably inevitable. Both civilizations were expanding, and the Mediterranean wasn't big enough for two great powers. The First Punic War, fought primarily over control of Sicily, lasted 23 years and nearly bankrupted both sides. Carthage lost, but the peace terms were so harsh that a second war became inevitable. Enter Hannibal Barca, perhaps the greatest military genius of the ancient world. In 218 BCE, he did something that Roman strategists considered impossible. He marched an army of 90,000 men, 12,000 horses and 37 war elephants from Spain, across the Pyrenees, through Gaul, and over the Alps into Italy. The journey took 5 months and cost him half his army, but he had achieved complete strategic surprise. For the next 16 years, Hannibal campaigned in Italy, winning victory after victory against Roman armies. At Cannae in 216 BCE, he destroyed the largest army Rome had ever assembled, killing 50,000 Roman soldiers in a single day. Rome came closer to defeat than at any other time in its history, but Hannibal's strategic brilliance couldn't overcome Carthage's fundamental weakness. The city's empire was held together by trade agreements and mutual benefit, not military occupation. When Hannibal needed reinforcements, Carthage's allies chose to protect their own territories rather than support a distant campaign in Italy. Rome's empire, built on conquest and assimilation, proved more resilient under pressure. The end came in the Third Punic War, a conflict that was less war than execution. Rome, now the dominant Mediterranean power, decided that Carthage's mere existence was a threat. In 146 BCE, after a 3-year siege, Roman legions breached the city walls. What followed was systematic destruction. The population was killed or enslaved. The buildings were torn down stone by stone. The site was cursed and left abandoned. But Carthage's influence didn't die with the city. Carthaginian agricultural techniques spread throughout the Roman world. Their trade networks became the foundation of Roman commerce. Their approach to naval warfare influenced Mediterranean tactics for centuries. Most importantly, their example showed that there were alternatives to the Roman model of empire. The memory of Carthage, however distorted by Roman propaganda, reminded later civilizations that Rome wasn't inevitable, wasn't the only way to organize a great power. 5 civilizations, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, yet connected by the mysteries they left behind. The astronomical knowledge of Callanish, the hydraulic engineering of Angkor Wat, the urban planning of Mohenjo-Daro, the cultural innovations of Sukhothai, the maritime empire of Carthage, each represents a path not taken, a different answer to the question of how human societies can organize themselves. What strikes you most about these lost civilizations isn't what they achieved, but what they suggest about human potential. The people who built Callanish understood celestial mechanics without telescopes. The engineers of Mohenjo-Daro created urban infrastructure that wouldn't be matched for 3 millennia. The artists of Sukhothai captured spiritual ideals in bronze that still move viewers today. These weren't primitive people stumbling towards civilization. They were sophisticated societies that made conscious choices about how to live, how to build, how to organize their communities. Some of those choices led to remarkable achievements. Others contributed to their eventual downfall. But here's what really keeps archaeologists awake at night. How much more is still out there, waiting to be discovered? Every year brings new finds that challenge our assumptions about the past. Ground-penetrating radar reveals hidden chambers beneath known sites. Satellite imagery spots mysterious structures in remote locations. Climate data from ice cores and tree rings rewrites the story of ancient civilizations. The 5 civilizations we've explored tonight represent just a fraction of human achievement that has been lost to time. For every Angkor Wat that survived in the jungle, How many other architectural marvels have crumbled to dust? For every Callanish that stood against the Scottish weather, how many stone circles have been quarried away by later generations? For every Carthage that left traces in the archaeological record, how many maritime empires have vanished beneath the waves? Perhaps that's the most humbling lesson these ancient sites teach us. Civilizations that seem permanent to their builders prove to be temporary. Knowledge that took generations to accumulate could be lost in a single generation. Technologies that represented the pinnacle of human achievement could be forgotten and have to be reinvented centuries later. Yet something persists. The stones of Callanish still mark the moon's dance across the Scottish sky. The towers of Angkor Wat still rise above the Cambodian jungle. The ruins of Mohenjo-Daro still testify to humanity's eternal desire to build something better. These sites remind us that we are part of a story much larger and longer than any single lifetime, any single civilization. The next time you visit an ancient site, remember that you're not just looking at old stones or broken pottery. You're witnessing humanity's endless capacity for creativity, ingenuity, and hope. You're seeing proof that our ancestors faced challenges as daunting as our own and found ways to not just survive, but to create beauty that outlasts empires. The mysteries of Callanish, Angkor Wat, Mohenjo-Daro, Sukhothai, and Carthage aren't just puzzles for archaeologists to solve. They're invitations to wonder, to question, to imagine what other secrets lie buried beneath our feet, waiting for the next curious explorer to brush away the dust of centuries and bring them back into the light.